Greetings! Welcome to Nina's World. This podcast provides a short respite from the trials and tribulations of everyday life. We're going to step back in time to the 1950s and 60s. And now, our story. Nina's siblings journey through Horace Park. Westward ho! When Nina's parents bought the house, they didn't know about the treasure waiting on the other side of the railroad tracks. They also didn't know that their children were going to adopt the nature preserve, Horace Park, as our side yard, or that their children would be spending hours exploring it. But no one could have missed the farm that was on the far side of the nature preserve, with its black Angus cows that chewed their way through the pasture by the side of the road. Motorists would slow down or stop to ogle them. Frankly, the cows didn't pay attention when people would exit their cars, walk to the fence line, grab handfuls of grass and try to feed them. Maybe the cows were thinking, ho-hum, just another day at the office. Nina was still a pipsqueak when her family moved to the house. It was the older children that began the walks through the forest and meadows, found an old, unoccupied mansion that would be torn down a year later, leaving only a stone slab with the family's name and year that it had been built. Paula, Rosa, Teresa, Sarah, and Martin, her older siblings, not counting Dorothy, who was so close in age, thought they had learned the routes through the forest and fields, the challenging terrain of gnarly roots, the danger from beasts, the provisions to be carried when they pretended to be settlers moving westward or pilgrims seeking land to build on. Only when they were simply out for a walk were Dorothy and Nina invited to join them. The night before one of their high adventures, the older siblings sat around the dining room table discussing plans to wake early, pretend to eat a breakfast of corn pone and blackstrap and coffee, which in reality would be Wheaties or Cheerios. The conversation continued as Nina, still in first grade, with crayon in hand and paper in front of her, listened while pretending to not listen. She wanted to do whatever they were going to do. She wanted to go along and said so. Me too. I want to go exploring with you. When you're a little older, Nina Bina, maybe when you're in second grade, Paul said. It's going to be a long walk, an all-day walk. Well, we're going to need energy for tomorrow. I, for one, am going to bed. Nina should have been in bed long ago, went upstairs. After pretending to brush her teeth by wetting her toothbrush, she climbed into bed and fell into a deep sleep with Dorothy already gently snoring beside her in the double bed. The next morning, with their dad already at work, their mom played her part in the drama, went along with the goodbyes and fare-thee-wells, saying she hoped they would meet again someday, adding that they should be home for dinner. To play it to the hilt, they gathered for prayer on their homestead porch, shared hugs, mussed their younger sister's hair, and got started. As Rosa led their siblings forward, Paul turned to his mother with a chuckle, said he hoped the waterhole had not been poisoned or run dry. She smiled and reminded him that was why they were carrying canteens with their own well water. They walked on, not looking back until the turn in the hedge, just a few yards away, seeing their mother still on the porch, waving the apron she had untied. Paul exclaimed, "Westward, ho!" Initially walking with energy, Paul slowed down as they approached the first creek, the one with a log-hewn platform across it without railings. He stopped, held his arm out from his side, told his siblings to wait until he tested its worthiness. Their brother stepped cautiously with one leg, putting what little pressure his weight would allow, then placed his other foot, stood still then, moving forward, determined it to be safe. Still, he suggested Rosa be last as their siblings were given the okay to cross. Then one, another, until Rosa joined them on the path into the forest. The path was more narrow, rocks and roots protruding, scampering noises through the underbrush on either side, bird calls, and a large black crow flying from branch to branch as if examining these newcomers. They walked on, siblings talking, making plans, noting the thick vines twisting together like braids, observing leaves that had shiny sides and those that had a rough surface. Suddenly, Sarah spotted a large dead bird on the side of the path. She called out in a voice that sounded like a screech. Everyone stopped and walked to the dead creature she was pointing to. Paul announced that it had probably been dead for several days, although how he could have known was beyond his sister's grasp. Sarah said they should hurry and maybe bury it, but Rosa said that nature would take care of its own. Martin wanted to stroke his feathers, but Teresa pulled his hand back, telling him it was germy. Paul took his pocket knife and cut leafy branches from a tree, placed them over the dead bird's composing body. Now Martin piped up that they should say a prayer for the bird, but Rosa suggested they have a minute of silence and then continue on their way. Paul agreed. They went to get to the meadow and searched for a fruit orchard that they had seen there. The day was warm, but under the canopy of trees, it was cool enough. Everyone sipped from the canteens before continuing on their trek. On they walked, legs beginning to feel the strain, hunger making itself known. The children could see the sunshine a mid-distance ahead and, with bursts of energy, started to run in that direction. It was a short enough distance, but Paul was still glad to put his rucksack on the ground, unhook his canteen, had a few gulps, and passed it around. Martin was taking food from the other rucksack as his sisters eagerly awaited their share. It was safer not to sit under the trees because some of them did have fruit, and apparently it was lunchtime for the bees also. There was a lot of chatter as they ate their grub, and Rosa reminding them to eat slowly because the food would last longer. No one was impressed with her mother hen act, and they ate as they wanted. Paul had read about the Native Americans who had lived in this area. He began to tell a story about them between bites of his peanut butter and jelly, while his younger siblings were eating their lunches or folding the wax paper that had once held their sandwiches. He told them that the Lenni Lenape men hunted for deer, small game like rabbits, or caught fish. The women gathered fruit, honey, grain to pound into a flour-like substance. They were peaceful people, but would go to war to protect their families. That was all before the white men came from Europe and wanted the land for themselves. His sisters asked questions, some of which Paul could not answer, and said so. Being refreshed, they walked further into the meadow, along a narrow path probably created by animals long ago, stopped to look at a bird's nest that had blown to the ground, climbed some trees, especially the ones with pears, helping themselves to dessert. On and on they trekked as the sun made an arc over their heads, clouds drifting towards them, turning darker than expected. A sudden chilly breeze, the clouds growing ashen. With the distant sound of thunder, Paul shouted that they should turn back now, called to his sisters who had drifted away to hurry, hurry before it started to rain. Too late. A cloud burst, the pounding of rain making it hard to see, but they managed to find each other. Yes, they found each other, but were not sure about which path they had taken and which way they should walk now. Paul said, "Stay close. Follow me. I think we have to go this way." They did follow him as the thunder was picking up its pace, so loud over the open meadow. Paul wasn't sure which path they used, so he selected one, led his sisters and brother until they came to a tree that had fallen long ago across the path. This was not the path they wanted, and Paul said to turn back. They were all frightened, but tried to remain calm, uselessly wiping water from their faces as more rain cascaded down. Back to the meadow, turning left, they scurried onward before lightning struck something at the meadow's far side. Paul recalled that he should have had his siblings stay put as soon as they had heard the thunder, instead of running towards home. And Paul knew the dangers of lightning, knew to stay close to the ground, to become a smaller target. He called to his siblings to gather together near the entry to the next path. Rosa would not let them run or stand, but covered them like a hen covers her chicks. Paul was outstretched on the other side of his siblings. They were crying that they were scared, wanted to go home, just wanted to run home. Why couldn't they go home? Paul and Rosa looked at each other resolutely. Rosa shouting over the rumbling, "Thank goodness Nina didn't come with us." Paul screamed to Rosa, "It came on quickly. It's a cloudburst. It should stop soon. We have to stay put." Rosa nodding in agreement. They heard Martin and their younger sisters praying aloud, "Please, God, protect us. Please get us safely home, Lord. God, I'm scared. Help me, pretty please." Paul and Rosa added their own silent appeals. Rosa smiled and wondered if the pretty please would be the prayer that made the difference. She would never know for sure, but the rain did become less strident, the thunder more distant, and the wind became a whisper. There was a moment of silence in the meadow. Then everyone crying and cheering and wanting to get up and go. Paul said that it still wasn't safe as long as they could hear thunder, and they had to wait to be sure. Rosa also encouraged them to be still and know that they were safe now and would continue to be. She looked up at the sky with her own quiet prayer of gratitude as the clouds dispersed and a bit of blue could be seen here and there as if through a torn, dark sheet. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, conversation among the siblings, already recounting their adventure and possibly, maybe exaggerating just a bit. Rosa smiled as she listened to their retelling. They had been brave, and no one mentioned being frightened. Nothing more from the sky, sighs of relief, but then the sound of a motor, men calling their names, a siren, on, then off, on, then on, more shouts. Paul standing, peeling off his wet shirt, waving it. Martin following his older brother's example, calling out, over here, we're over this way." The engine slowed, and the park jeep stopped. 2 men running in their direction, pulling red blankets from bags, covering the children with them like shawls, reassuring them that all would be well. Yes, all would be well. One using his radio to call dispatch. "We found them. They're soaked, but don't seem frightened, and considering what they went through, they're safe. No medical attention required." He listened and added, "I understand. Right away. Over and out." He turned to the children. "It's a good thing you waited here. That bridge you walked over earlier today has been washed away. We had to take another route. We'll drive you to the park headquarters. Your dad is waiting to take you home from there. You sure are lucky. Hope you don't mind being cramped and sitting on each other's laps in the Jeep." The brothers and sisters laughed. They didn't mind being rescued, not one bit. They were eager to go home. As the park guards were helping them find nooks and crannies in the Jeep, one of them turned to the children. "We're mighty glad we found you. Your mother called headquarters as soon as the storm started. What I want to know is, how did you know to stay put?" Paul and Rosa answered at the same time and interrupting each other. "We go to the library a lot. Yeah, we like to read all kinds of books. And yeah, we all prayed too. Right, and tried to keep calm. And well, yeah, we prayed for help and you arrived." The park guards looked at each other. One said, "Maybe I should go to the library more." The other, "Maybe I should go to church more." The end. Thank you for visiting with us today. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to this podcast and share it with everyone you know. Return next week for another story from Nina's World. This story was written and read by Christine McKee, with gratitude to Dr. Ethel Ratkin of Bucks County Community College for editorial consultation and encouragement. Additional heartfelt support from family, friends, and members of my writing groups. Technical support was provided by Mr. Dan Tarrant of Personally Catholic. Sound engineering by Mr. Andrew Kimmock of AK Productions. May you embrace peace in your heart, in your home, and in your world.